What's going on, world? It's your boy Jamie the Motivator here again on Too Crowded Podcast, where I talk to successful individuals about their journey of success, how they got to where they were, their wins, their losses, their success. I'm here today with Ebon. Hey, welcome to the couch.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Listen, I'm so grateful. Thank you for having me on the show because I know we've been talking about this for a minute.
Yes, life been
So,
happening
yes,
and stuff been going on.
exactly. But yes, I'm Ebon Brown. I'm a Cali girl, Bay Area in the building, but I am stationed here in Atlanta. So I'm happy to be here. I'm
Absolutely.
just, let me know what you want to talk about.
So just tell the world, how you got to where you are today. What are some of the things you have going on? I know you do a plethora of things.
Yes.
So educate
So
us.
let's start from the beginning. I moved here about 5 years ago, and I left a job there or career there, and I came here, and of course, they weren't paying what Cali was paying. It was like going from $40-something an hour to basically them telling me I could make 17.
Of course.
And
That's the South.
I actually just jumped into entrepreneurship. I knew that I could cook. And I basically just started giving meals to my friends and stuff like that. And next thing you know, within probably like a month, I already had probably close to 30 clients. So it went from, basically trying to figure things out to making almost $10,000 to $15,000 a month.
Yeah.
And it was easy money, just cooking 2-3 days out of the week. And making good money, you know what I'm saying? So then your name starts to get out there. Then I kind of set the tone that I wanted to come out here and do something different. I really wanted to change the tax bracket that I was in. I wanted to change the relationships I was building.
Definitely.
So I basically found a wardrobe stylist, told him what I wanted to look like, what the tone I wanted to set when people saw me.
Olivia Pope.
Yes, yes, she was definitely one.
Yeah, I see it.
Actually, Kiana Watts was another one. I love the way
that.
she dressed, and I kind of just went with that flow. So I just started making a lot of connections, and then that's how I got with Tribeca. I just told them, I said, hey, I think y'all need a woman on y'all team, like a woman like me, because you could be a woman, but to be able to build those relationships and be able to really talk to anyone and feel comfortable enough to build those relationships and keep them, right? Because a lot of people build relationships, but they don't keep the relationships. They just use them for the moment that they need them, and then they move on. So I got with Tribeca, and then, stuff just started, pulling in because people can see you on Instagram, but not know what you are like in person, right? So once people started to see me in person, it was like, oh, she actually really dope. I could talk sports with the men. I could talk makeup with the ladies. I could shoot the shit with whoever. So it was just, it was just like a really nice swag. So that took off, loved it. Then I started Girlfriends Tribe, women empowerment, hosting events every month.
Just had a major event.
Yeah, so it was, I just recently had one, which was great. It was the vision board brunch, which it was more personal, intimate. I usually kind of do them a little bit bigger, but this one was smaller. But it was great. And now that I'm a new mom, things are a little bit slower than I would like. Yeah. But I still love it because, even you asking me to come do this is to show mothers, new mothers, and mothers that their kids are grown. It's like we can still do things. We can still.
You got a star in your hand, too.
And my baby is so, she is literally me. She's funny, she's pretty, she's smart. She has everything. So she makes my life really easy because I could take her with me. I could bring her with me and she'll sit right here quiet. Yeah. She won't cry. She's been to events with me. But for the most part, I would say, when it's dealing with success, you can't always think about money.
That's big. A lot of people don't say that.
Yeah,
they say it's always about money.
It's not always about money because I know starting off, I did a lot of things for, free or service for a service, And sometimes you just want to do things because you really want to do it. You want to feel like I like to do things for people, right? So sometimes you got to give those little freebies here and there because it makes you feel good. And you got to really remember the purpose of why you're doing things. It's not always about money for me. No, success is really bigger than that. It's deeper than that. It got to be definitely for me. It got to be God-based. So sometimes God will tell you, get to that person for free.
Correct.
Do that service for free, right? But if you thinking money-wise.
And it's long-term.
You're not going to do that. No, you're just going to be like, nah, I need those coins. I need that money, right? So now you're not even living in the correct purpose, or you're not walking the right way because you're not even listening to God no more because money can't talk to you.
No, not at all.
I know everybody put it up to their face when they on Instagram and all that shit. But
they're not calling nobody.
You ain't calling nobody. Ain't nothing happening, right? So you have to make sure that your faith is where it is to be able to accept the successes, because if not, you'll end up in a place where now you're looking back and you ain't got shit. right? Oh, I don't know if you can cuss on here. Excuse me.
Let it out.
But you don't know if you don't have anything, right? Because you looking in the wrong places. You live in your own purpose instead of his, right?
Correct.
So sometimes you have to be mindful of what your purpose is, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for. Like, you got to bullet point these things. And I wasn't always like that. So
yeah, it sounds like I'm hearing the journey, but it sounds like you fast track because you said, you was in a corporate job and then you said, hey, I'm not really liking this. Let me go entrepreneurship and it was successful. That is not common at all.
It's not.
I have, women that I train this in my networks, different things, and they have a hard time. They've been sitting on ideals for years. And they don't know where to start, how to get going, and they have all these valid excuses, about having a child and, certain dating, not having money, and, not putting themselves out there. How did you find that?
I'm blessed enough to say I have a really big support team. My mother and my father, to them, we live middle class, but to me, I always felt like I was rich already, right? Because when you have love in your heart and in your mind and your parents, that's why it's really important when parents like really instill certain things into their kids, because I knew I couldn't fail at nothing. Like, it didn't matter. But I also already knew I had a fallback plan. I was like, oh, if I go to Atlanta, I just move back home to my parents' house, right? And I'll still be good, right? So some of those things that you have as a child, like your parents, it puts you in that mindset. I knew I wasn't going to fail. And if I did, I'll start all over again. I can move back home, figure it out for a year or two, get my money back up, and then I can do it again, right? Which I've done. I've lived in Seattle. I've lived in LA. Right. And not all those places. Right. And all those places didn't make it for me. Right. They didn't. The person that I am today is not the person I was in Seattle. The person that I am today was not the person I was in LA. Right. But I was able and blessed enough to reboot myself, to really get my mind in it, to say, this is what I'm doing and fuck everything else.
Correct.
Right. So to have a mindset that you can do anything, you really have to have your mental health together.
Absolutely.
Because if you're looking on social media and you're looking at other women and other men out here with these nice cars and these chains and these Louis bags, you're going to get distracted on what you really need.
Oh, you're going to want to jump off a building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And my motive wasn't material things. It was, I don't want my parents to work no more. Right? I want to be able to take all my friends on a vacation.
Correct.
I want to be able to go in the store and be like, I want this. Let me get that. I want to be able to walk into a restaurant and be like, I want this $200 steak and I want that bottle of this.
Absolutely.
Right? Those were things that I wanted. Right? So sometimes you got to really people got to really jot down what they want. And my main thing was, I want to go ahead and buy my parents' house.
See, that's big. So did that mindset come from outside of your parents, or did it come from extra exposure?
I think it mainly came from my parents.
Oh, okay.
Because my mother is an entrepreneur herself. She's been in business for 30 plus years. She owned her own. She had her own daycare center. Then she had her home daycare. So I've only seen her be an entrepreneur.
So you're working in like generational mindset
at
this point.
My grandmother was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
My great grandmother was an entrepreneur. My father, he worked for Alameda County, but he was a supervisor, but he also did his own businesses on the side, right? Yeah. So I've always been into that lifestyle as entrepreneurship, of how hard you got to work. But being able to see my mother run a full-on 24 hours, 7 days a week daycare. So we had kids at the house all day, every day.
That's a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
To see that, but to see that my dad never missed a meal. Our clothes were always washed and folded and color coordinated. House was always clean. She never missed a sports game. He never, you get what I'm saying? Like, you could really do all of these things, but it really got to be in your heart.
Correct.
Like, my mother wanted to be a mother. She loved being a mother. So she took care of us first, and she wanted to be a businesswoman. You get what I'm saying?
Both of them.
So it was both of them, but I would see her multitasking, and the same thing with my dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, men are different, right? So yeah, of course I see my dad coming to work, meals is done, but he's doing his different things that he's doing. He got a job at the Coliseum, right? Wow. So it's like different stuff that they were doing in their avenues let me know, hey, I could do this too.
It's possible.
Right, you can have fun. You could have kids. Like, most people are like, oh, I ain't traveling with my kids and da-da-da-da. We've been traveling since we were little. My parents would take us everywhere they went. Everywhere they went, we went.
So how do you motivate a 20-year-old young lady who's listening to you, that doesn't have the exposure, doesn't have the parents, doesn't have the examples? How do you motivate her to find that and chase after something that's bigger than her current circumstance?
In this generation, it's really hard to. I won't say it's hard, But this generation is so different than ours and the way we grew up and the way we were raised that sometimes I even speaking to them is so different because we didn't have all these different social medias and all these people to look up to. We usually just had our parents or grandparents or maybe a cousin or school, you know. But if somebody was 20, I would say, once again, get into your faith, like really know your faith. Get your own life, your own routine down first. You know, get up early, meditate, pray, work out, eat good. And I don't mean like you got to only eat salads, but make sure the things you put in your body is right, because you really have to focus on you to set yourself up for that success, right? Because once you start making that money and it's coming, you ain't gonna worry about working out. You ain't gonna worry about eating healthy, because now you want to eat steak and pop bottles of Moet and all this other stuff, right? You have no discipline. So you really have to focus on you first and set your own routine for your lifestyle, because then when you get successful, everything is just gonna flow so easy for you. You ain't gonna worry about you not having a bank account for yourself and your business bank account. You're gonna your mindset gonna already be like, oh, I need to do this and I need to do this. But if you don't set those routines up, like I didn't in the beginning, I was spending money from out of my business license thing and this, that, and other. So when it came time for me to buy my first property, it was hard because my money was all mixed up. But even though I had a routine set up, I was making money too fast. So my life, the routine that I set for myself, now I'm like, oh, shit, you know, like I want this, I want that. So really get your mindset right. Really be big on your faith, whatever it is, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever it is.
Mindset.
Get your mindset right, and really dote on yourself, because once that money start falling in, a lot of people, unwanted people gonna be coming in, a lot of relationships gonna be trying to be built that shouldn't be built. Just listen to your God and make sure it ain't yourself. If you're doing the work and you putting in the work with him, he gonna make sure you only hear him, and you ain't gonna have no confusions on where you should go and where you shouldn't go. He gonna put you right in the path where you should be, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about some of the wins and some of the losses on this journey of entrepreneurship.
Well, you know, losses is, you know, I do a lot of things by myself. People most of the time don't notice, but I hang out by myself. I don't really have a homegirl I could be like, let's go get our nails done together, or hey girl, I'm over here hanging out. I don't have that. Like, I know a lot of women, but all my real friends is back home in the Bay, right? So it's different. It's like you can, even though I'm successful, who don't want somebody that they could just call or call you? Don't nobody call me.
Right. Wow.
Right? Don't nobody call my phone. Unless
they want
they want something or they need something. Or, you know, somebody's going out tonight. Yeah. Oh, you might want to go out. And even then, they still don't call me, right? I got to see it on Insta like, dang, you know, if they doing something, I'm like, dang, why they want to invite me? Wow. So it brings it back to sometimes you really got to make sure your mind is right, because then you're looking at these people hanging out with other people, and you're like, well, damn, why they didn't call me? I know I'm cool. What made them not want to call me, right? But sometimes you got to understand that you ain't supposed to be hanging out with that person no way. You got to make sure you stay in your own lane. And sometimes your own lane, it's your lane for a reason. Correct. Right? So with success, I definitely, you know, everything, you know, I wanted. I wanted a condo in Atlanta. I got shout out to Pilar, found me a condo right on Lenox Road, right in the city, right? Prime.
Yeah, everybody love that
right?
area. Yeah.
I love that area. Yep. You know, I could go this way, that way. 1,700 square footage. It ain't no small condo. I'm talking about this is a nice condo, right? So, of course, nice cars. You know, whatever you want, shoes, this, like, you know, for that, my mama needs something. Oh, mama, I got it. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, this, that, and other different little things. But also, sometimes it is very much so lonely when you are successful. So that's why mental health is very important. That's why, you know, knowing your God and knowing yourself and making sure that you are setting your routine and doing certain things, because even though you're successful, it ain't always, it's not always fun, right? Because some people don't want to hang out with you because they think like, oh, man, every time I go with her, she always want to spend this kind of money and I ain't got it. Yep. Then you start to become that person like, oh, I got it, right? Because I've been that person. Oh, come, it's fine. You know, you could come, I got it, right? But then that's not always okay either. Now you're carrying everybody. Now you're carrying everybody, you know? So I've had a lot of successes in my life, but also, you know, as a woman, there's certain things when I'm 37 years old, I want to be married. You know, I have my first baby, but, you know, me and the father are not together. It happens. Right? So, once again, you have to be right in your mind, because even though I'm successful, there's certain things that I really, really want that I don't have.
Correct.
Right? That's what I consider success. A husband, a wife, kids, house.
Yeah, not
you
things,
get what I'm saying?
Not just things or tangible things, but things that, give you fulfillment.
Exactly. So, just be mindful. And by the way, I am very much so happy now. I'm okay with, being a single mom. I love it. It's beautiful. I'm dating again, so that's fun.
I was going to ask you about dating. Dating in Atlanta, for a woman. I know it can be interesting. The stories is
dating
the
in Atlanta is, for me, it's very different, because most men run from me anyway, because sometimes I got a potty mouth. Sometimes I come off like a nigga anyway, or I come off and I have this and they don't know how to deal with it.
Is that right?
So it kind of makes
I didn't
it
get
works
that
for me. I
didn't get that when I first met you, though.
And it depends on the person, honestly. And sometimes as a woman, you gotta really weave through them anyway. So sometimes I just talk to a man a certain way just to see
how
his
he gonna
vibe,
fulfill,
to see how if he gonna like it. If I might call him, something to tap his shoulder, ask him how a game is, he looking like, oh, she too masculine for me.
Yeah.
Right? Which I'm okay with that.
But only thing you're doing is weaving them out.
I'm just weaving them out.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. I've made some little thought that was something else, like my baby daddy, but it wasn't, right? Yeah. So you live and you learn, and now I'm talking to somebody, and I'm very much so happy. He's very different than any man I've ever dated in my life. And I think it's one of those things that women have to really understand, that until you are okay with yourself and you really have healed from different journeys in your life, whether it's business, whether it's men, whatever it is, sometimes those relationships that you thought were something, they were going to fall off anyway, because you weren't mentally ready for it.
Yeah.
So now being, mentally ready, but also finding somebody, or not finding somebody, but someone coming to me that is patient. Right?
Yeah, and that's big too, because you gotta be patient with you, patient with your daughter,
exactly,
patient with what that looks like,
exactly,
and then understanding the dynamic that you're in. Like, she has a father, and what that relationship looks like.
Yes.
And that's big for myself. I just was in a situation where I had to deal with those things, and I ultimately ended up walking away because of certain dynamics. But I felt at peace about the situation.
Exactly. As long as you're at peace, that's all that matters. Yeah. Honestly, as long when you get into these relationships, sometimes it's hard for me in general, because I grew up with a mother and a father. So, talking to a man is a little different for me. Like, you know what I mean? There's certain things that I know that I do want you to do. But also, for me, a lot of people look at me as considered an alpha female, right? They also look at me sometimes as being very masculine as a woman. But I had to learn to tell myself it's not masculine, it's assertive.
Yeah.
Right? There's certain things that you just not gonna do, right? There's certain things we just not gonna fly with.
Correct.
Like, and maybe it's the bae in me, but it's only certain things I'm gonna accept, because you can still catch these hands.
Yeah,
so,
but I don't think a real man, is intimidated by that. I think, as long as, you understand that there's dynamics of a woman and there's dynamics of a man, but it's not like it's gender roles, but it's kind of like, allow me to be a man, I'm gonna allow you to be a woman.
Here.
So
that ain't. I mean, it's very slim picking when it comes to that. Because Atlanta also reminds me a lot of LA.
It's the new LA.
It's very
sure.
It's very self-absorbent. It's very let me show you first. Which back in the day, they relationships, they built things together. It wasn't like I got to be here and then you come you come once I'm big.
Correct.
And I got myself together. It wasn't that. So there are still people like myself that I'm very still old school. Like, like we could get a house together. Yeah. Like, you ain't got it, I got it. Let's figure it out.
Yeah,
but that's not the new
percentage. Yeah.
That's not the world we live in anymore. Men want to be successful before they find that right woman. Oh, I got to get this before I find a wife.
But do you blame them?
I feel like in a certain sense I do, because if you really in your Bible, it say, most men need that man, woman, whatever people choose, you need that partner to be able to live that lifestyle. Yeah. The lifestyle that you're thinking about in your head, you probably ain't there yet because you ain't found a wife. Women are different creatures just like y'all are. So y'all need our help just like we need yours.
Right. The
right
person.
The right person.
The right person. Though.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I tell people this all the time. If you keep going into relationships just because one failed, and that's one thing that I really do love about myself, is I love hard. If we got in a relationship and shit didn't work out and I met somebody else, I'm going to love him the same, not the same way I loved you, but I'm going to have that love in my heart, because at the end of the day, you can't, people are so it's hard to just choose somebody and be like, oh, yep, I know he's this, I know he's that, because you got to peel those things, you got to peel those layers back, right? Yeah. That's why they say you got to know grandmothers, grandpa, like, what did they do? Yeah. Was they alcoholics? Was they smoking crack? Like, you want to dig into
who you're getting attached to.
Yeah, so it takes time. And at the end of the day, like, you know, nowadays people are so ready to up and leave. They don't want to put that time in, no way. They don't want to sit there and try to figure out, you know, your past and your traumas and all. They don't want to figure that out. When you do one thing wrong, they might give you 3 chances. They out after that. Oh, she crazy. Yeah. Or he tripping, right? That's not how it's supposed to be, because if you plan on being with somebody forever, there's going to be shit that happened. And it's going to be way deeper than, you know, she yelled at me in the bathroom, or, you know, she came home, like, you know, all the stupid stuff that people get mad about, you know.
Have you been married before?
I have not. Okay. I have not been married. I've been engaged before, but I have not been married yet. I mean, hopefully it's coming out. but no.
Hey, you manifested everything else, right?
I definitely manifest that all the time. So hopefully my time is coming, but I'm also really not rushing it, because I like where I'm at. And, you know, things take time, you know. So, you know, maybe there's a reason, because I don't feel as if I would have been as successful as I am now if I was married. To me, right? Because I needed that time for myself. I needed that time to know me. I needed that time to really figure out what that bond was.
See, but I'll challenge you there. Just like you said, a man needs the right woman to be there.
Y'all take too long.
The certain women need the right man to cultivate.
True.
You know, because women are, you know, after they find the right man can bring so much out of them.
This
and
is
get
true.
them to the next level. So,
I mean, if I probably did find the right man, I probably would actually be even more successful.
Correct.
Right? But I mean, I had my brothers, my cousins, my daddy. So it wasn't like, I mean, I had men in my life to be able to, you know, hey, this ain't going to be cool. Like, you should probably do this like this.
Correct.
This. But I mean, I feel like sometimes you do find the wrong men that gave me that mindset of, I probably would have been more successful, because then they want to put you in a box.
Yep.
Oh, I don't want you going out too late. I don't want you to wear this. I want you,
yep.
You know, so I was able to move freely within my success. I got to be out 3-4 times a night sometime. Mm-hmm. You know, I got to kind of move around and network myself here in Georgia. You get what I'm saying?
Correct.
But, you know, like you said, if I probably would have crossed paths with the right man, I definitely would have been somewhere that I would have been able to get the penthouse that I told Pilar I wanted. Yeah. Like, you know, that was on the 29th floor, right? So, I mean, different things for different people. But once again, I always bring it back to, like, you know, sometimes I wasn't always listening to God. I wasn't high on my faith. And that's probably why some of my setbacks, you know, were good for me, because I needed those setbacks to kind of reboot myself, like, oh, shit, I messed up.
For the setup.
Yeah, to be where I am now. You know what I mean? Like, even my daughter, like, yeah, I'm not married and her and her dad are not together, but I needed her.
Yeah, but your hope in that situation, and, you know, I'm figuring it out as well. I got a 4-year-old, and he's the same way, just like your daughter. He can come in and sit and just blend in.
Yes.
Nobody knows. But I'm able, and, you know, even though my life is not set up the way I want it, but having him at 29 versus 19, I feel like that's a blessing in itself.
It is very much so a blessing. I don't know what I would do if I had a child at, you know, and that's another thing. You know, a lot of people, like, you know, I hear people say it all the time. Oh, girl, I don't know how you did that, having a baby at 36, 37 years old. And at first I used to be embarrassed, like, dang, I am old, you know, because we are considered geriatric, I think, if I'm saying it right? So I didn't know what the word meant until I had to look it up, because they would call me that at the doctor. And I'm like, what does this mean? And finally one of the young girls would be like, oh, that means you're older, right? Yeah. So I was really like, I don't feel older. But now that I think about it, I would encourage women to wait, because my baby ain't got to worry about nothing.
Correct.
Right? I ain't depending on my parents or my grandmother or my friends to do nothing for my baby.
Yeah.
My baby is well taken care of. I own my own things. Yeah. Right? We want to go somewhere. We outside. Me and my baby be outside. Right. Okay? We travel. We hang out. Like, you know what I mean? So it's a different lifestyle, because I can take care of my child. Yeah. There is no ruffle about what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So... no, it's to the power. We can say, look, we still look good in the dark. It's okay.
Hey, yo. So I guess, let me see about getting this breaker.